I would like to greet you all. The topic of my presentation is the conquest of Anatolia and Rumelia and Sarı Saltuk Rifai. The fundamental effects of Alperans, whom Samia Ayverdi refers as the guards of principle, is a historical fact. And with her saying, as she states, these spiritual heroes had left their homeland, arrived from faraway places, and devoted their lives to their goals. They enlivened, developed, and revived the places they went and brought services without any request from anybody. And they were conquesting, and it was not an enthusiasm, an adventure, a destruction, an invasion, but it was a settling, union, and it was an effort of establishing civilization for Muslim Turks who fulfilled the fight to Turkify the land in the name of İlahi Kelimetullah as a true life principle. Thus, Sarı Saltuk, who was known to be one of these spiritual heroes, was remembered as Mücahit, Gazi, Gazi Dervish, blessed and holy person. And after visiting his mausoleum and listening to the anecdotes about him, Sultan Cem got Ebul Hayr Rumi to write Saltukname. This book tells us his real name was Sherif Hızır, and he was an orphan at the age of 3, and he was brought up by a maid, by a lala called Seravil, and the name Saltuk was given to him by the enemy in a battle. He was an extremely powerful person, and based on the narrations in Saltukname, he had extraordinary powers. He could hear things from faraway places. He could kill his enemies with the blow of his sword from where he was, and could move from one place to another in the blink of an eye. His enemies are never able to catch him. And he could speak a couple of languages, knew the Torah and the Bible entirely by heart. He was preaching in churches, in priest clothes, and inviting people to Islam in this way. In Evliya Çelebi's Seyahatname, it is stated that Sarı Saltuk conveyed Islam replacing priests. And the oldest source was İbn Battuta's Seyahatname, which tells us that he was born in the Babada region of current Romania in 1331 and 32. According to Yazıcıoğlu Ali's Oğuzname, in 1261 and 62, the Seljukian Sultan İzzettin Keykavus II took shelter in the lands of Emperor Mikhail Palaiologos VIII, and he was shown Dobruja as the place to settle with Turkmenians, and the Sultan passed to Rumelia and settled there. Sarı Saltuk was the leader to those people. He lived until 1293 and was buried in a zaviye in Babada. Sarı Saltuk is said to have tombs and mausoleums in many different parts of Anatolia and Balkans. Kaliakra in Varna, Bulgaria, Ohri, Macedonia, Ipek in Kosovo, Kruja in Albania, Blaga in Bosnia-Herzegovina, Baba Eski, Babada, Rumeli Feneri, Nicosia, Bor, Tunceli, and Diyarbakır are other places that he still has tombs that are visited today. Yusuf bin Ismail and Nebhani talks about Sarı Saltuk in his book Cami-ü Kerametil Evliya, and he gives a reference to Ibn Seraj's book Tuffahul Ervah, written in 1315, which is the oldest known resource that talks about Sarı Saltuk. Also, Ibn Seraj has written an icazetname in 1308, a ratification, shows us that he is one of the grandchildren of Hazreti Pir Ahmed Rifai, and Tuffahul Ervah and Miftahul Irbah tells us about the keramet and the menkıbes of many evliyas, and one of them is Sarı Saltuk, referred to as Saltuk et Türkî. This work cannot be regarded solely as a collection of anecdotes or miracles, because the date is given as 1315 and the writer has his own observations, so it is not only a collection of anecdotes and miracles. This also contains historical information and has verbal material, including some verbal culture of the region. Also, there is another anecdote, another menkıbe about Sarı Saltuk from the Tufahul Erva. Sheikh Saltuk at Turkey went to a place where a group of about 1,000 men attacked unbelievers, the Kafirs, lived. And after spending a couple of days, the sheikh stood up, took off his clothes, and started attacking here and there, all naked, as if he was in an actual battle. And he was bleeding badly, and the dervishes were cleaning him continuously, which lasted for 3 hours on that day. And he sat down and calmed down. The dervishes asked him why, and he replied, a large group of enemy consisting of 30,000 men confronted a Muslim group moving towards the enemy. And I have seen that they were very weak against their enemies. I joined them with the power that God bestowed upon me, and I fought against them and directed them into the way I chose for them. Later on, the saved Muslims reached the Zawiya, the Dervish lodge, and they told the following: we were less than 1,000 men, and 30,000 of blasphemers attacked us. Once our defeat seemed to be certain, Sheikh Saltuk came and fought against them, and we have seen him saving us from them. So Ibn Sarraj's book has a special importance. It includes important explanations about the Tariqa of Rifai and the membership of Sarı Saltuk. Ibn Sarraj connects this with Mahmud Hayrani and says this: know that Mahmud Hayrani went to Abide. He stood before the tomb of our master, Sultanul Arifin Seyyidus Sıddık'in Ahmet bin Ebil Hasan el-Rifai. This waiting between them continued without intermediary until an outstanding state opened up before him, and plentiful kısmet and pure chance came up to. Mahmud Hayran benefited also from Ahmet Müstacil, who was the head of the Dervish lodge in Abide, and made him confirm the inspiration he drew from Ahmet al-Rifai through the Uwaisi way, and he returns back to Anatolia as a Rifai sheikh. And one of the cues about Mahmud Hayrani being a Rifai is the inscription on the symbolic coffin of his grandson Sayyid Ali. Ibn Sarraj includes the following explanation in this book: then Sheikh Saltuk became a companion of Mahmud Hayrani, was blessed by him, and became one of the distinguished men of his era. He defeated a lot of kafir, unbeliever people, and various groups surrendered to him there. Allah inspired a lot of people to seek the way of truth thanks to him. His divine power became evident. His celestial and Allahly evidence gained a reputation. Here Ibn Sarraj puts forward for certain that Mahmud Hayrani was a Rifai sheikh and that Sarı Saltuk joined him. And also he was guided by Mahmud Hayrani for conquest and holy war. Mahmud Hayrani, whom Ibn Sarraj connects Sarı Saltuk by means of Tariqa, lived in Akşehir near Konya and died there in 1269. In the collected poems named Hızırname, written in 880 by Sheikh Muhyiddin, a Bektashi poet, it was narrated that Mahmud Hayrani was present at the social gatherings with some holy people like Hacı Bektashi Veli, Sadreddin Konevi, Mevlana Sultan Veled, just as Sarı Saltuk did. Another document showing that Mahmud Hayrani and Sarı Saltuk belonged to Rifai order was En-Necm Üs-Saifi Menakıbil Kutbil Kebirir Rifai. This book was written by Yemeni Sufi called Abdullah el-Ayderusi. In this book, which is like a Menakıb Name, it was shown that Sayyid Mahmud el-Hayrani al-Rumi and his disciples Sarı Saltuk and Barak Baba were connected with Ahmed al-Rifai. In this piece of work, the topic is stated as follows. When the fondness of Sayyid Ahmed al-Rifai fills his heart, Mahmud Hayrani leaves his tribe and withdraws from his statesmanship completely. Bareheaded, barefooted, he comes for the honorable service of Sayyid, and becoming his disciple, he stays with Sayyid for 12 years in rapturousness. During this condition of enchantment, 400 snakes and 400 dragons bite Mahmud, yet not Mahmud, but the biting creatures die. So after the 12 years, Hazreti Seyyid-i Kebir looks at Mahmud Hayran and lures him in with ecstasy. He commands, attend to the condition of your admission, your saluk. Next day, Sayyid says, well, Mahmud Hayran, enter the treasure house of the dervish, fakir, and take the resources necessary for you. And Mahmud Hayran, obeying this order, he enters the treasure house. That is to say, he returns to this world for his duty to show the true path. He heads for Anatolia with Sayyid's permission in his service. Shortly, he arrives at Anatolia, Rome, and sees a crowd of people having a talk in a district. And one of the people among them is Sarı Saltuk, which gets up and greets him. And the rest is told like this. Mahmud Hayran Hazretleri told him, open your mouth. He did. And Mahmud Hayran put his fist inside Sarı Saltuk's mouth, and he was enchanted with the admiration by the breath of Seyyid-i Kebir. Because Hayran's breath, namely his glance, is the breath of Seyyid-i Kebir. Saltuk fell so much in love with Hayran that he was infatuated. And here the explanation in the books Tufahul Ervah and Miftahul about Mahmud Hayran and Sarı Saltuk's being Rifai by Tarika has been proven. In an as narrated, it says in En-Necm Safi Menakib, Sheikh Ahmedi Yesevi came to Hazreti Sayyid Ahmed al-Rifai's service with 400 dervishes. He arrived at the district called Abide. He ordered the dervishes, put me in a large container and close the top. Open it at the square at the glance of Ahmed al-Rifai. The dervishes obeyed his order and opened the top of the container. Sayyid Ahmed glanced him. He saw a roasted lamb in the container. Sayyid Ahmed said, Allah bless you, Ya Ahmed Yesevi. We see that you have matured, you have cooked. At that moment, Sayyid said the prayer of Ihlas by saying, Kul huvallah. Then Sayyid Ahmedi Yesevi stood and pledged allegiance to Sayyid Ahmed. He wore the dervish coat of nothingness and became a sincere follower. He even became Sayyid's leading Khalifa and was appointed to the district of Khita and Khotan and Turkestan. All the Orient region was his appointment. He reached at such a level that he had 90,000 prestigious followers. The essence of all the blessing is Sayyid Ahmed al-Rifai. When we look at the roles of Sarı Saltuk and Ahmet Yesevi directly and indirectly in Conquest of Anatolia and Rumelia into consideration, the spiritual involvement in this conquest comes up as an important aspect. These individuals were on a mission to conquest both the land and the hearts and dedicated their lives to this conquest. In the light of historical information and documents, Sarı Saltuk and Ahmet Yesevi's spiritual master was proven to be Ahmet Rifai Hazretleri and his representative in the 20th century. Kenan Rifai Hazretleri, belonging to the branch of Seyyid of Rifai path, is a conqueror of hearts. He says the following about Hazreti Pir Ahmet Rifai. He has never-ending supremacy, but his degree of excellence and moral principles are composed of permanent modesty, ajz, humility, knowing that a human being has no power before Allah and nothingness. Therefore, the prominent manifestation of Rifai people is modesty, humility. It is true that modesty, humility, humbleness is the essence of all tariqas. Yet for Rifais, the manifestation is in the course of excessive modesty. Imagine that Sultan, after having the honor of kissing the blessed hand of Rasulullah, was overwhelmed with such an ecstasy and revelation of modesty that lying in front of Babus Salam, he said, "Those who love Allah, please trespass over me, pass stepping on me." Based on the narration in Abdullah el-Aydarusi's book, with the blessing of Ahmet Rifai Hazretleri, Ahmet Yesevi, who enlightened Turkestan and conveyed Islam in its Sufi nature from east to west through his dervishes coming sequentially, he has enlightened the 20th century and beyond, being born in the second half of the 19th century, and whose benevolence is everlasting on us, are the evidences in the world that the source of the never-ending conquest movement of the perfected human being that come into existence in Tariqa Rifai is the principle of modesty, humility, ajz, poverty and nothingness. Kenan Rifai has authorization in 4 paths, tariqa, and with the maturity necessary to his era, he says the following as a fundamental path to the path of Prophet Muhammad. If we ask what tariqa is and where the term comes from, we can say that it comes from the path that unites the seeker with the desired one, the disciple with his or her wish, and the part with the whole, and that it was sent by Rasulullah. Here all the seemingly different spiritual paths are single, actually having no differences from each other, and all of them are called the tariqa of Muhammad, just like there are many different roads going to Baytullah, Kaaba, because there are a lot of ways going to the Kaaba from different parts of the world, but the center and the goal of these roads is single, and that is Beyt-i Muazzama, in other words Kaaba. Being a perfected teacher and the thorough successor and substitute of our master, the purpose of our existence in this world is to find this delegate and get into her training. It is necessary that he or she be our leader and guide, since Ahlullah is seen through him, what the pilgrim seeks, and what his her wish is to see the beauty of Allah. Briefly, whatever he or she seeks is present in the worship. Therefore, the matter is not the tariqa of Kadiri, Rifai or Mevlevi, but to find the perfected human being. Once you find this human being, you see all that the spiritual paths are present in her or him, and that all the leaders of dervishes are seen through this master. With these words, with the confirmation that the individuals mentioned above, like Sarı Saltuk, Mahmud Hayrani and Ahmet Yesevi, were the members of Rifai Tariqa, he was meaning to say that the emphasis is put on Tawhid, unity principle, and the belief that is symbolized in the notion of perfected human being. So the principle of that idea of unity, Tawhid, is what constitutes purpose and the secret of truth behind never-ending protection and conquest of Sarı Saltuk, who knew the Torah and the Bible by heart and who invited people to Islam in the cloaks of priests, and Kenan Rifai, who belonged to Seyyadi branch of Rifai path, and whom even the priests joined and became his followers. We have